Hello and welcome. There is no doubt that BBC is a renowned news agency, and then particularly the one in Africa, BBC Africa, has been very renowned in putting up documentaries. But the recent documentary on TB Joshua, the one that is titled The Court of TB Joshua, in my opinion, may not be called a documentary for the following reasons. First, journalism is supposed to actually help the society review information, and but there is this aspect of journalism that is called investigative journalism, and most documentaries have been a product of investigative journalism. But in this case, though the organization said they took 2 years to conduct to put what they call the masterpiece, a groundbreaking piece together, I do not see them to have done a thorough work within that length of time. They also said that everything or the information supplied on something they called a documentary is based on the story told by his disciples, the disciples of the man in question, TB Joshua. One would have thought that within this length of time, they would go under, because part of investigative journalism require that you break into a system and be part of that system to get first-hand information. Because once information starts moving from he said, she said, they said, it's subjective, it's subject to manipulation, it's subject to being screwed. Now, one would have thought that for an organization that is a church, which is always open to people, and most of these people started talking before the time of that investigation, I personally feel that they hinged on the vlogs of those people prior to this time to expand it. Actually, they are a bigger platform, and whatever they say is going to carry a little bit of weight. And permit me to say that any spread that documentary has got will still be predicated on the person of TB Joshua. Everybody that knows TB Joshua would know that he's a man that has been in the eye of the storm. It first started in Nigeria. You know, they say a prophet has no honor in his own country. Because of the conventional Christianity as practiced in Africa, or in Nigeria particularly, his style was not something acceptable to a lot of people. That would be a topic for another day, because maybe you have to check out my video on TB Joshua's spirituality. So he's a man that has been in the eye of the storm, a man who has been very controversial. When it comes to the issue of spirituality, there is bound to be that controversy. But at this point, I would like to say that the church has no business proving to the world that Christ is real or that Jesus is real. Because spirituality is now being subjected from the physical eye and is seriously under attack, that the people who are in the flesh are now dictating what spirituality should be. So that's by the way. So back to BBC's documentary on TB Joshua. So let's just say they upheld a controversy or a conspiracy theory on TB Joshua. Because every of that documentary, I took time to look at episode 1, 2, 3. In those 3-hour combination of testimonies, there was no first-hand experience from any staff of BBC to say, I went under and these are my observations. Then BBC conducted a documentary in University of Lagos, Nigeria, to ascertain the sex for grade scandal, or the claim of sex for grade, trying to find out whether it's actually true, owing to a series of complaints. I think one of their staff went under to become a student. People should not be too fast, especially news houses, should not be too fast to chase clout, to not be too fast to push out a piece of information that can be damaging without doing their due diligence. Because once a damage is done, they can only do damage control, but one will wonder if that damage will actually be controlled. With the damage being done on TB Joshua, and by extension, the Christendom in Africa, owing to the documentary of BBC, not just Africa, Christendom all over, because the man in question has a spread. His ministry got some level of spread in Africa and in the West. I don't know, or would I say that BBC really did their due diligence before they churned out those pieces of information as a documentary. Mind you, I am not being unfair to the people that testified. They may have their personal experiences. But believe me, and I want to apologize, if those were truly their experiences, I feel for you, and may God heal you. And also, we will not take out the fact that every truth we will get would depend on what they say, would depend on their testimonies, which neither of them took time to record. They spent that number of years. Some of them went out, came back, went out, returned. They never came back with the mission to infiltrate the system and get clips of evidences. As I was saying, when they did the documentary on sex for grade, the student wore a body cam. The supposed student, who was an undercover journalist, wore a body cam that was getting all the piece of information that will corroborate their claims. And that was why we believed that they were saying the truth. But in this one, I don't know the extent to which truth has been told. Then we will now have to believe on everything those people said to be the total truth. Remind you that if you are going to subject these allegations to the law, they are not going to base it on just what these people said, because there have been allegations and cases of rape and cases of assault, cases of similar things that have been taken to the court. If a lawyer sits down and looks at this piece of information, it might not carry weight because they are not supporting evidences. No matter how somebody claims to be assaulted, to be raped, to be violated, if they are not able to provide piece of evidences to this, to give life to their claims, it still will remain under scrutiny. So, assuming that we take this piece of evidence to the court, are you telling me that the lawyer is going to, or sorry, the judge is going to make his conclusions based on what these people said? There might be reparations because human life is involved, because someone's destiny is involved, but it might not get the weight that people are expecting that it should get. So one would have expected that BBC Africa Eye would have done their due diligence within these 2 years. That organization was vulnerable. They could go in and pretend to be people searching for God to see whether these things are actually happening. So we will have to base every truth to what one side of a story said. If they have these evidences that I'm talking about, I do not know. One would feel that they should bring it forward. Otherwise, the organization in question can take up this case because it's doing a lot of damage, both to them and to a body, the Christian body. Whether or not he's representing the totality of the Christian body or not, but he came in the name of the Lord who we worship, Jesus Christ. And everything people know and have seen are the things he says in his congregation, the messages he preaches. If you call it a cult and people come out and they start their program in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and they end in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, there is no physical practice that has shown that they are performing a ritual in the services that are open. And this organization also did their due diligence by recording everything they have ever done. If you take your time, you will notice that everything the SCOAN organization did, they did it in the eyes of the camera. So if actually they want to be seen as a cult, they will not be giving you that ability to see what they do. So we are going to be judging the man based on the things we have seen. We have our biases. I grew up knowing TB Joshua because he started when I was little. And then there were speculations as to whether he is real, he's not real, based on the standard that have seen to be the standard of reality. So whoever comes out now to say, this is how it should be done, this is how it should not be done, should be able to say that these are the piece of information that I have to corroborate my claims. So most of the clips in that documentary were borrowed from the clips of the church programs. And the information were screwed. It shows you that documentary is not a chronological happening that shows the intent as at the time of happening. They cut pieces of things from here, bring the person testifying to give it life. And you know, these people were also camped in a place towards the end of their documentary. They were trying to tell a story and they took clips from existing videos to put it together, which is what a normal vlog would do. If you are doing a documentary will be life happenings as they happened. It might not be now, but it's things that you got from your undercover work that are relating to what you are talking about. Sexual assaults, everything that were put together are testimonies of the people. They are giving the impression that they were hypnotized. That they are hypnotized. Like one of them says, TB Joshua's spirituality hypnotizes you. So when they come from that premise, one will say they were not acting out of their right senses. But that is deception. It's not acceptable in the eye of the law. And they gave the impression that they were not acting in their right senses, because for many of them stayed there 13, 14 years and more, depending on who is involved. I have no issues with the people, but I have issues with the information they have supplied. And if the allegations are true, is yet to be validated with proofs. And if they are true, I sympathize with these people. And then, if it is true as an organization, actually, they are supposed to be brought to book. But unfortunately, BBC's documentary was based on the person of the man, not on the organization. On the person of the man, otherwise, one would have said that the man should answer to the law on the allegations against him, in which case he will bring evidences to defend himself. Now the documentary came out when he's not there to defend himself. What they could have done is to direct the whole thing to the organization as a people. But they created that documentary, so-called, to mean that this is the secret life of this is the life of this man, unknown to his followers, unknown to the organization. In that documentary, they gave an impression that the wife is unaware of the things happening there. And it was still with the intent to sustain the claims of sexual abuses on a constant basis. Like the reason he doesn't make out with his wife is because he's having time with these other people. He's trying to tell you where they want our minds to go to. Because truly, when you bring, many preachers have always been in the eye of the storm, but the one that people seem to relate more to is when there are claims of sexual abuses. So, and when there are attacks on them, that looks very juicy. So, if they don't come from that angle, it's not going to make sense. And then other allegations as to voodoo or juju, as we call it in Africa, of witchcraft practices. And also, BBC bringing the pictures of these people that are testifying and demonstrating what they are saying in pictures. Even when the man said that TB Joshua caught a fish and cut his bread, cut his the pubic hair and fed to the fish. They demonstrated it. While in the actual sense, that wasn't the fish in question, that wasn't the sin and what happened. You are conditioning people to believe what you want them to believe. A documentary should have shown when these things happened. If you could not verify them, you should have dropped it. Now, when they say he goes to pray in a prayer house and there are smoke, when has incense become diabolic? Catholic Church burns incense, smoke is involved. In fact, because it is said that the carnal man does not understand the things of the spirit, there are lots of people that burn incense. Other religions, because we're dealing with spirituality now. And anything spirituality cannot be explained because it's dealing with spirits and management of spirits. So, celestial churches use insects. The house will be filled with smoke. And the statement she even made is saying, "Oh Lord, forgive us. Oh Lord, forgive us." Didn't look like something occultic. That's a topic for another day. Whether or not the practice is good or bad is left for those in the spiritual studies. Anyway, I talked about the spirituality of TB Joshua, which is left to him. I've always grown rejecting things and methods of certain religious leaders, but it doesn't stop me from seeing exaggerated truths, seeing malignings. When truth is exaggerated, it also becomes a lie. Everything in that documentary is exaggerated, and I'm going to ask you to check out my analysis on the episodes of that documentary. Let us be conscious of not being caught up in the things we are accusing people to have done. TB Joshua did this, he did that. They wanted us to believe that his ministry is predicated on witchcraft, which is a subjective opinion. Whether or not it's true is left between him and his God. Many people feel that they have received miracles from there. And when they claim that miracles that are done there are fake, how could someone say that he had supervised the miracles that are fake over the number of years he stayed there? and he wants to make it the problem of TB Joshua. On the issues of miracles, actually, everybody might not receive miracles in organizations. If there are 20 people in a room, in a congregation seeking miracles, don't be surprised that it might be 1 or 2 people who will get those miracles. Because we don't dictate how the spirits move. It was in the Bible when the people were waiting at the pool, when spirits stirred the waters. Many of them stayed years there waiting until the story of the man that was recorded to have received his own miracle after a long period of waiting. How many years? So, for people who received their miracles, it's going to be positive. For those who did not receive their miracles, it's going to be a different account. Mind you, these people travel from far and near. They spend resources, they spend time. With the number of crowd visiting that place for miracles, is the competition is high. It's survival of the fittest. Like who will be touched? So for the man to say he personally supervised the miracles, I'm sure for the whole number of years that TB Joshua has operated, he started since the 80s, mid-80s. I don't think until now, I don't think that particular man supervised all the miracles that happened there. The place I have issues was the approach of the church when the building collapsed. Mind you, like I said, if they had made this the issue of the organization itself, by now, it won't be just about TB Joshua. It will be about the SCOAN as an organization. Because if you ask me, they have to pay for the lousiness and the flouting of the laws in the area of construction that cost many lives. But the Nigerian government in their coroner's inquest confirmed that it was structural failures and that the building has been approved for a particular number of stories, whereas it took more. In that instance, the organization who can no longer face the law because TB Joshua is gone now and cannot face the law as a person, the organization should be made to pay reparations to people, because you cannot lock up the whole, they cannot serve jail time as an organization, as a group, but they can be fined. I don't know if they have been, if they have paid according to the law for that crime, because that one is very visible. One can relate to it. We can see it, that actually the building collapsed, that people died, and that there was an indictment that this thing shouldn't have been like this, and that they should stand to pay for everything that has happened. And I feel that should still happen. It should be seen that the people that lost their life will be compensated accordingly. No, there is no compensation that will suffice for life, but they have to pay hugely for the lives that were lost based on their, due to their carelessness, due to their, I don't know what to even call it. To also show you how desperate BBC was to release this piece of information, they said they reached out to the church, and the church says it's not the first time TB Joshua is being accused of these things. So because they made such comments, if actually that's what happened, they went ahead and published the stuff without still going under, like I said. Someone is putting up allegations against me, and then they go to report to you, and then you say you brought my attention, you called my attention, I didn't come. You went ahead to publish that allegation as a documentary. As a documentary. Then is a documentary meant to sustain allegations? Feel that they should have waited a little bit to do their due diligence. If those piece of information is having a widespread, it's because of the pedigree of the person of TB Joshua as a spiritual leader, as somebody that has a widespread, and as a gossip, because gossips like this ones trend.